Alright, so first of all, veganism is just for privileged white people. I'm typically against the erasure of minority groups, but I'm gonna forget about that kind of value of mine and erase the existence of indigenous vegans and people of color vegans because I need an excuse to just shit on vegans. Those minority groups just don't exist. Vegans are a bunch of soy boys and meat is manly. Typically, when I think of how I want to exist as a man, I consider fighting for 1 second old fetuses that are very likely not sentient. But when a beta soy boy tries to fight for obviously sentient animals, I just think that's super soy and beta behavior. Also, America. Vegans claim to care so much about the lives of the innocent, but won't talk about the horrible conditions of the migrant workers who harvest the food they need to have their avocado toast. We can ignore the fact that I'm calling out vegans for this while actively supporting both the conditions for migrant workers and the terrible conditions for slaughterhouse workers and the terrible conditions for animals that are subject to a Holocaust. Please, let's just ignore that. As a Jesus-loving and conservative man, I care deeply about my individual liberties and freedom. This is why I think that people should have the freedom to restrict the freedom of animals. Freedom is only good when I have it. But if you get in the way of my freedom to get in the way of somebody else's freedom, I will come for you with my guns. Veganism literally equals racism. I mean, just think of all the vegans that claim that animals are enslaved. If you accurately describe what animals are going through, you're just racist. Just like when vegans accurately describe what animals are going through as a Holocaust, they're being anti-Semitic, even though literally nobody brought up Jews. These vegans and their fake meats, it's literally just a bunch of chemicals. We can ignore the fact that all food is just a bunch of chemicals. Oh, and by default, because vegan meat is a sort of new thing, I have to, by default, oppose it. Anytime I don't understand something relatively new, I'm just going to oppose it. We must conserve old habits, even if those old habits are garbage for the planet. We need systemic change if we're going to help animals. Individual consumer choices don't matter. We need to change the system. I like to actively condemn specific consumer choices for not being fair trade or ethically sourced, but when somebody brings up veganism, I drop all of that and pretend that individual consumer choices don't matter and that we need only systemic change to solve the problem. These hypocritical vegans care so much about saving lives, but think it's fine to just kill babies in the womb. Life begins at conception, but that doesn't stop me from paying for animals to be murdered for a cheeseburger well past their conception. Here's the thing, I'm against the oppression of marginalized groups unless being against the oppression of marginalized groups gets in the way of me and my cheeseburger. If I have to give up a cheeseburger, I simply don't care. Have these vegans even been on a farm before? Do you know that every single animal in a crop field has to be massacred for you to have your tofu? Yup, it's true. Some dude on Joe Rogan said it, so it must be true. You know, some people, unlike me, live in food deserts, so it's harder for them to go vegan. Vegans simply don't care about that possibility. I mean, I don't care about my food choices literally supporting a holocaust of animals, but I figure I would exploit the bad conditions of other people who can't go vegan to help facilitate my case for not being vegan, even though I can totally be vegan. Dude, cavemen, have you seen their paintings? I don't see any paintings of them eating tofu or avocado toast. It's just a bunch of alphas hunting down mammoths. Obviously, alpha men cavemen knew exactly what they were doing when it came to nutrition science and weren't just trying to eat whatever the they could at the time. Veganism is just fat phobia in disguise. It's also white and based in whiteness, which makes it inherently racist because it benefits from the power structure which facilitates white saviorism and white supremacy through the colonizer mindset, which is rooted in racism. Bro, Joe Rogan. Veganism is classist and ableist because it's racist. Speaking of those alpha cavemen, check out this video of me successfully hunting down a deer like the alpha that I am. Veganism gentrifies oppressed indigenous people's cuisine while simultaneously trying to take away their right to exploit animals, which is their culture. Seed oils, have you heard of them? They're in everything. Seed oils are literally the cause of every disease, and they're in every vegan food. Seed oils. White vegans are the same as anti-abortion activists. Since they are white, they have to use the oppression of somebody else to feel oppressed. This is what white conservatives do with fetuses. There is zero possibility that vegans just want to help animals. No. They just want to feel oppressed. What the f? is this Bill Gates funded, seed oil filled, vegan meat, lab grown meat concoction that the liberal elites are trying to put into our food system? All I know is it's another new thing, so I must oppose it. They're probably putting that damn jab in there too to make us all weak like these beta vegans. Vegan pages that don't advocate for oppressed humans obviously don't care about humans. I mean, I don't expect human rights groups to post about animal rights, but we're gonna forget that double standard. We need to go back to first principles. Evolution and nature. We evolved eating meat. Well, I mean, evolution isn't real and the universe is only 6,000 years old, but still, these goddamn vegans are trying to turn us weak. The tyrannical elite want to feed us soy and bugs to make us weak, so that we can't retaliate when they come for our guns. Veganism is just a front for being able to harass colored, disabled, and poor people. Your ableism and racism is not saving animals, but it is hurting people. Veganism is racism, capitalism, globalization, colonization, all rolled into one. So please leave me alone and let me oppress an animal for my cheeseburger. Dude, Joe Rogan's podcast. There's abject ableism, classism, and racism in militant veganism. But y'all vegans ain't ready for that conversation. Veganism and anti-indigenous racism intersect in a way that supports white supremacy and saviorism. And by the way, through the colonizer mindset, which is responsible for Beyond Meat. And don't even get me started on the intersection between veganism and environmental racism. I mean, they're basically the same thing. Dude, Joe Rogan.
Dude.
Fuck off, I don't want anything to do with you. Don't ever speak to me again. You're a fucking piece of shit.
Even vegans don't get your weird, stupid wannabe sense of irony here. Who is your audience? Nobody gets these dumb jokes. Dude,